Do you feel like your sales strategy has hit a wall? Well, you're not alone. Many sellers struggle with the methods that just don't cut it anymore in modern B2B sales. That's going to leave you frustrated and questioning what's missing. But what if you could turn all of that around? Well, today in this video, we're going to break down the 4 rules of sales that will transform your approach and hopefully skyrocket your results. So whether you are a seasoned pro or just starting out, these insights are your key to unlocking a whole new level of sales success. So let's dive right in with the first rule of sales, and that is that you got to treat sales like a game rather than a chore or even a job. Now, before you roll your eyes and you start to think, oh, games are for children, for kids, hear me out here. So what makes a game? A game has inputs, variable outcomes, and feedback loops. Think about it. In a game, you make a move, you see what happens, and then you adjust your strategy so that you can improve the next time around. And modern B2B sales is exactly the same. In sales, your inputs are the calls you make, the emails that you send, the presentations that you nail. These are your moves on the chessboard. But this is where it gets interesting. Not every move that you make is going to win the game of closing the deal. You're going to face rejections, and guess what? That is your feedback loop. That is the game saying, go and try a different move. And just like in any game, outcomes vary as well. Some of the deals you're going to work on are your extreme, mega, ultimate bonus level. They're going to come in easy, you're going to make a load of money, they're going to be rewarding. Others are the boss battle that you've got to prepare for, you've got to strategize, and maybe even struggle to conquer. And the crazy thing is, and this ties into rejection right in sales, something that many salespeople are fearful of. Think about this, what is the real cost of losing a round, a life, or a level in the game of sales? Well, essentially zero. Nada, nothing. Nobody's getting hurt if your pitch doesn't land, if the prospect you're cold calling doesn't pick up the phone. No prospect is out there plotting revenge because your product did not win them over. The stakes might feel pretty high in the moment, but in reality, you're playing a game where the very worst outcome is, well, no, I'm not interested right now. And the best outcome, well, that's the big win. That's the high score. That's the dream house, the Porsche, whatever you want to spend your bonus on. Okay, so that's rule number 1, but here's the kicker. It's not just about playing the game, it's about mastering it. We need to understand that success in sales is the same as success in any type of game. It comes down to how well you play it. Your tools in this great game of sales are words and strategy. Your reward is as big as you want it to be in modern B2B sales. And remember, while you're playing this game, you're not alone. You're competing for sure, obviously against your competition, but every other player has their eyes on their own prize. And that's what I'm going to share with you in the 4th rule of sales. But let's not get ahead of ourselves for now. For now, let's focus on mastering the game that's in front of us, because at the end of the day, the grand game of business, the grand game of sales, there's room for only one winner. And to be that one individual that wins, you have to lean into rule number 2 of sales. And this one's slightly mind-bending for people who haven't wrapped their head around it quite just yet. And the rule is that you're not selling a product, you're selling a bridge to a brighter, bolder, better future reality. Now, imagine for a second that your buyer is living in their own version of their own little reality, right? That's not where they dream of living, that's their current reality. Now, there's this sparkling, bigger, bolder future reality that they've got their eyes on. That is their future reality, that's what they're heading towards. And what are you going to offer them as a B2B salesperson? You're going to be the savvy, value-adding guide that's going to help them go from one reality to the other. This is the reality gap method in action. And if you want to learn more about the reality gap method, you can grab my free book, Selling Made Simple, over at salesman.com, where we dive into all of this in more detail. So think of sales being like this, right? You are holding the key to a secret passage that leads the buyer from their current reality to the treasure chest of their dreams. Every product, every service that you sell, it's not just a random line item on a spreadsheet or a bit of advice. It's a ticket to the buyer's bigger, bolder, better future. And the cool thing is the whole world economy runs on this fuel of people chasing better, bigger, more magical, whatever kind of metaphor you want to use here, better realities. So make sure when you're engaging with potential customers, you're not talking about the specifications of your product necessarily. It's more about painting the picture of where they could be, where they could get to, and show them how your offer is the bridge to get them from one place to another. And once they see that vision, the rest of the sales process becomes as easy as just connecting the dots. So let's jump into the 3rd rule of sales. That is that the key to closing a sale is obviously getting the meeting. And to get the meeting, it's just a perfect blend of A, B, and C. That is your killer message that turns heads. That is putting the message in front of your ideal customer. And then timing, hitting the prospect when they're most receptive, when there is a buying signal, a buying trigger, when they are most likely to want to engage with you. And if you are not smashing your sales quota right now, this is what you've got to focus on. Value proposition, so the right message, your ideal customer persona, so you can put the message in front of the right person, and then looking for trigger events in your market so that you can do all of this at the right time. And you can split up the two key parts of the sales process as well, prospecting and then explaining the value and closing the deal. Prospecting is your initial test. It's a mixture of guesswork, strategy, and honing your approach as you learn. It's about really uncovering and finding that sweet spot where your message hits the right person at the right time. When all of these, if you think of a Venn diagram, all of these circles overlap. Then once you book the meeting, you're on to the second part of the process, explaining the value and closing the deal. This is where you're in diagnosis mode. You're testing if the hypothesis and the variables that you predicted in the first instance are correct. And if not, no worries. You've booked the meeting, you've now engaged with the buyer, you're in a one-on-one conversation, and you can now tweak and pivot your message so that you can share the value that closes the deal. Your closing hinges on the alignment between your value proposition, the buyer's needs, obviously make sure that you speak to the right person, the decision maker, and then there being a specific trigger event that compels action right now. One of the most common questions that I get asked in the YouTube comments and in our program, our training and mentor program over at salesman.com, is how do I create more urgency? Well, it's very difficult, especially if you're engaging with executives, C-suites, high-level management. They've got their own things going on in life, in their business. Typically, we need to leverage a trigger event that they're facing as opposed to creating a trigger event ourselves. And so if you're hitting a snag with any step of the sales process, I want you to reflect on these few things. Is my message impactful? Am I engaging with the actual decision maker? Is there an urgent reason for them to act? If you master each one of these elements and you're not just playing the game, you're now strategizing rather than just plodding on and doing what everyone else is doing, you will absolutely win and smash your quota. Now to the fourth and final rule of sales, and this is genuinely a game changer. You've got to remember that sales is a zero-sum game. Now picture this. There's only going to be one victor, one winner. There's going to be no runner-ups. There's no consolation prizes when you're working in sales. In modern B2B sales, it is win or just go home. But the truth is, you don't need to be a sales superhero to smash quota every single time. You've just got to be 1% better than everyone else in your space. If you're 1% better, you're going to clinch the deal every time. So if your rivals are lagging, you're already miles ahead. And remember that becoming 1% better than your competitors is absolutely within your own hands. If you're struggling against the competition, it's time to level up your sales skills. It's time to turn the tables and it's time to start winning big. If your competitor is a 7 out of 10 in skill set, you just need to be a 7.1 out of 10 to win the deal every time. Heck, if you're in some weird marketplace where all the salespeople suck and they're all 2 out of 10, you only have to be a 2.1 out of 10 to again win the deal every time. This should be empowering for you. This should be exciting for you as a salesperson. You don't need to be the best salesperson on the planet to make 100 grand, 500 grand, $1 million in sales commission every single year. You just need to be that little bit better than your competition. And that's it. That's a wrap up of the golden rules of sales. And if you found this video useful, why not click the video that's on the screen right now and continue making selling simple.